It's electrifying, and we're live.
Oh. Gosh.
Ah, lovely.
And a very good evening, everybody, and welcome to a very special Lyceum evening this evening, coming to you from the Paul Spiritualist Church on the south coast of the UK. We have two lovely ladies here. We have Diane Kampshoff. Hello, Diane.
Hello.
Danielle Nijhuis.
Hello.
And we also have joining us from in the middle of the countryside, Mr. Mark Stone.
Evening.
Evening all. So we're all together tonight because we have just spent the most fabulous week together. Yes. Haven't we?
We have.
Yeah. And it's been just so enriching being in that teaching and growth and exploration vibration. And made even better that people were joining in on other people's workshops as well. So it was really good, just all working together and exploring and finding out different things. So Diana, what are you taking away from this week?
Oh, what have I taken away this week?
Yes, please repeat my question while you're answering.
I was the whole week here, so I get the most whole experience of it all. And we started off with a beautiful demonstration where you can really felt the exploring of the power being built between the three of you as the teacher. And it was so good to watch, to have a good example of what a demonstration is and what it could be. So that was a really good start of it. And on a Monday, Danielle and I did the reading. Danielle did the mental medium reading, and I did a psychic reading with drawing the oracle card. So it was a good exploration for me and also for the sitter as well, to explore the soul and how the mind is affecting and working together with the soul. And that was a lovely day as well.
Should we go?
Yeah, she was like, yeah, it was beautiful.
Continue.
What's so very most interesting is that the no, it was.
So what did you take away from this week? What's going to be that jewel that you take home?
What is the jewel? I think the whole building up in the power of the whole week and the experiencing of blending with spirit on a different level, on another level, more depth in it.
Good.
Yeah,
that was easy.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say that at the beginning?
No, because I really was inspired by this week.
Yeah,
that
was a metaphorical question. Yeah. You need an answer. Anyway, moving on. Danielle.
Have you given him too much sugar today? Is that what you've done?
No.
I've been sat on the bus coming back from Swanage with two screaming women.
We gave him a happy day.
They haven't understood that the wheels of the bus are behind where you sit. So when the bus turns, you don't.
Wow!
So, Danielle, what are you going to take away from the week?
I think, and I know, that the spirit world took a lot away from it. So it's not only me, it's working together with the three of us, having this same vibration, carrying the same colors, and then bringing that forward to the students and give them the opportunity to have this togetherness and depth and growth. So it was really a pleasure to feel within the presence of all of us that those who came along really had that experience that there is so much more possible.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it will bring a little bit of hunger to continue the journey by blending with the spirit world. And it doesn't matter if it is on a psychic level within your own soul or within healing or within trance.
Yep. Wonderful. And Mark. Hello, Mark.
Hello. I've not
What
been on
did
the
you take of
ladies
it?
and gentlemen, so I'm fine. What do I take away? It's what I enjoyed about the week, and you've already mentioned this, about the way that we are working together and also sitting with each other as working mediums. And when we're in that space, the thing that I find is the enjoyment of seeing people's connection to spirit, the uniqueness of it. And for some, where there's been a feeling of a loss of connection or a distancing because of life and circumstances, that reconnection and realizing that no one's left them, the spirit world is still there, their connection is still there, and the uniqueness of each and every experience from the whole week. Brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. I'm taking away.
Yeah. What did you take away from it with us?
Thank you, Danielle.
Well,
Funny you should ask that.
It was horrible.
Yeah, look, you've been horrible to me. You've been vile. I'm taking away. Do you know what? Again, we're going on about the intelligence of spirit, because I took a workshop, Danielle took a workshop, Mark took a workshop, and there was this thread.
Yeah.
Things were repeated.
Yeah.
The car, and just little things like that, and I just love all that. Everything just blended, and it blended perfectly. So,
And we didn't talk in front with each other. What is it? What you're going to teach? It was just the spirit world that did it.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is. It's brilliant, and it really does show the value of a good standard of education. I'm not being big-headed or blowing trumpets when I say that. Because it's a very hard world out there. We talk about the elephant in the room, and anybody involved with running courses or workshops at the moment will undoubtedly agree it's really difficult to generate that interest. It's really hard compared to a year ago. It's just changed so much, so dramatically. But it's sorting out, when we're dealing with the education side, I'm not going to say I'm the best of the best, or Danielle's the best, or Diane, or Mark, but we're really good at what we do. And what we do it comes from the heart. It doesn't come from the other side of us. Or they look at me here, how wonderful am I? There's none of that in there, and it shines through. It really does shine through. So it's a very difficult time. Tony Goswell, hi from UCP. What's UCP? Oh, Upton Country Park. She's at the music festival. Fair enough. We went past on the bus. Hello, Tony. Enjoy the evening. It is about the education of mediums, of healers, of psychics, whatever it is. We've really got to strive for that excellence. We've really got to strive for that connection with our those who sit with us, and our own connection, and listen to the other world, and listen and feel the way that things were moved. I know, Mark, with your 2-day course, there were a couple of times of the other world went, let's try this. And you went along, and it worked perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. So I would ask the question, on these the workshops and things. This is for everybody watching tonight, wherever you are in the world, and good evening. What's your thoughts on workshop? What are the sort of things that stop you going to a workshop? You'll have to excuse me, I've had this all week. What were the things that may stop you going on a workshop? What were some of the really highs that you've had on a workshop? That epiphany, that light bulb moment. Where do you think workshops or courses could do better? Just give us your thoughts. You're all out there. You're all developing. You're all looking into this earnestly. So you must have thoughts and ideas. And don't worry, nothing is daft. Nothing is dumb. So just share your thoughts. That would be wonderful. But just getting back to it. we've had some wonderful discussions as well, have we not?
Yeah.
Yeah. See? Yeah. Enthusiastic.
Oh yes, we had wonderful discussions.
No, too late.
Lawrence.
Too late. Too late.
And I think it's good to discuss because when we're looking into workshops and courses wherever you are in the world, because we're now in Poole and we are from the Netherlands, and people are, you didn't know?
No, I didn't know that.
No.
I just thought you had an accent from somewhere.
What?
I'd had you down as Cornwall.
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 Where is that?
Don't know.
Cornwall.
Cornwall.
There's that Bournemouth.
Yeah, near Bournemouth.
Bournemouth. Excuse me for my English.
Yes.
The
Don't
Bournemouth.
even go to Stowborough today. That was just a nightmare. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I've got it.
Oh. But you were talking about the connection.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you live. I believe that wherever you are in the world, there is this interest in, is there more after the physical death? And not only to do a reading, but when you are following a course yourself, what do you really want to get out of it? What are you searching for?
Yeah.
Because I think we are all different. And my curiosity is also, what is it what you're looking for? Wherever you are in the world. So what's the most important thing your soul is telling you?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, good point. Mark, you've been training for many years, even though you're a mere 27.
And then some.
Oh, God, please carry on.
There you go.
I was going to say, have you noticed how the education side of the philosophy of spiritualism, have you noticed a change in that and direction? Have you noticed new energies coming in maybe, or whatever?
I've always loved very much traditional spiritualism. I was born and raised in it. So for me, church, the connection, old school ways of sitting, not trying to overcomplicate everything to the point where it's just confusing, and also realizing that everyone comes to explore in workshops for different reasons. Not everyone may have the same dedication or desire for it to be some kind of spiritual vocation for them or calling for them. It may be that they just need to touch upon certain aspects of the spirit world for maybe their own comfort, their own understanding, maybe just to sort of see what it's all about, and then maybe dip out with it again, just to go, oh, okay, that's what it's about, and move into something else. And I think that what we're seeing a lot of, and you mentioned the word philosophy. For me, I love philosophy. I love the thought from the spirit world, the inspiration, whether it's in the trance state or the conscious states, wherever it may be. But there is a shying away, and we touched on it on the workshop, that the minute people sort of see the word philosophy, they think academic and they think learned and, book smart. And often people forget that this inspired state of spiritual philosophy is led by the other world a lot. And so we may not have the greatest knowledge of the way of life in different ways. We have our experience, but the other world will always choose to inspire in whatever way. And just like the people coming to the workshops for different reasons, what I hope is that they always find what they need to take away with them. And I think the thing is, and we all know this, over the decades that I've been involved in spiritualism, I've noticed that people want quicker and quicker fixes. Like the world speeds up, everybody wants quicker fixes. And so when it becomes apparent that you're going to need to spend time and longer working on self and working on the spirit connection, that's when pathways kind of split really for a while. And so I think that, there are a lot of things that are done now or said now to bring students onto courses that are implying that, you know, you'll do this and you'll be, you know, do this 6-week course and you'll be, do this and you'll be. And really, there's no guarantee on any of that, you know. Yes, they might put it in, you know, you've got a satisfaction money back guarantee or whatever it may be. But actually, you know, you may go on a workshop, you may read a book, you may, you know, invest in time and energy in different things. And there is no knowing how long that unfoldment process is going to take. And I don't always see that being taught. I see people doing, do this and this will happen, that's it. And then when people don't get there, because maybe their mediumship works differently to the medium who's teaching them, they're kind of cut loose and then feel that they don't know what to do and don't know where to go, or they've been deserted by the spirit world or by their teacher or whatever. And I think there needs to be a greater connection between people and not only their mentors they work with, and really understanding and working with mediums or healers or tutors, but also people taking the time to understand and meet their main team, which is the spirit world. And there's not a lot of time focusing on get to know who works with you. And there are mediums out there teaching who also haven't done that. And that's not to say whether that's right or wrong. My personal opinion is your greatest teachers are already working with you and walking with you. But are you listening and are you connecting with them? Or are you just focused on, I'm going to give messages and that's it?
Yeah, no, very wise words. Lovely Reverend Ashley, and she's just commenting, it's so important, Mark, sitting in connection for the joy of the relationship with spirit, sitting for the joy of experiencing.
Absolutely.
Very, very true. Because I often use one of your sayings, the mind is the navigator. And it's very true, isn't it? If I sit there and go, right, all I'm going to do, I want to do messages, and that's where you're going to go. And spirit will keep giving. Spirit, because I asked spirit once, I said, do you ever get a bit tired with people who've been going to churches or mediums for many, many years, getting messages and there's no movement? And the spirit world just turned around and said, we give. And I got that. I really understand. I know it sounds a trite answer, but I really got that. They're just saying, we give. You know, and again, it's that essence of giving and receiving. We give. What you do with it is down to you.
Yeah. And we don't know, as individuals, we don't know what someone else really needs or how it touches or moves them. And that's why, you know, as mediums, we never know necessarily how deeply a message has touched, moved someone or transformed a life, even someone on a workshop. You know, we may think that, you know, we're not achieving maybe what the other world want, but it's maybe that we don't know what's going on there. But all we can do is keep working and giving and not worry about, you know, have I managed to transform that person's life? If we've done what the spirit world have brought and wanted us to do, and you know, we've tried our best in that process, then we've done what we can. And again, you know, when it comes to teaching, we are not necessarily everybody's perfect teacher. You know, there is different strokes for different folks. There are different teaching styles. There are different methods of communication. There are different ways of people working. So, you know, again, you've got to look at, you know, you can't just work with everyone and please everyone. You know, you're there for the people that resonate with you.
Yeah, very true. What's your thoughts on that?
I always say that you can have as many teachers as you want. Looking at my own past and my own involvement, the first thing you will do if you are an overseas student and you're coming into spiritualism, you're looking at the big names. And I was lucky to have Glyn Edwards first. So that took a good first step. but you can go to every workshop. You're able to with the biggest name, but the spirit world is your biggest teacher.
Okay.
And the teacher, if it's fitting with you or not, is only opening the door to the possibilities to the spirit world. So I also said to you, I think it was today, that someday when the cat is trying to hug me and I'm very allergic, can you please go? I'm seeing if it's working similar as you go. Go.
No.
Not going. I think I said this today to you. Sometimes when you have a student for a couple of years and you give the very, very best of yourself for what your knowledge is as a teacher in all the aspects they are, you try to build as a teacher to bring the confidence that they are ready in a certain way to spread their wings and practice it in the reality. And of course, you always need to learn further. As I sat 2 days with you, Mark, and I said to you, aha, something changed. Something changed so deeply. And as a teacher, you are the students, and your students will be your teacher. But someday you need to say to yourself, okay, I've been with Mark for 20 years, or I have been with Lawrence for 20 years. Now it's time to step up and try to have the teachers in the spirit world, and then let them guide me to where can I go for the next year. And never forget to be the student, but never forget that the spirit world is your teacher.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Stephen Mager. Good evening, Stephen. I think workshops give you tools that we can use for daily incremental advances, but we hope for the sort of monumental advances we get from monumental life changes, like facing death or losing a loved one. Yes, yeah, that.
Clipping their wings.
It's bringing in that energy of. She thinks it's only fans. It's bringing in that energy of it's the little steps that really count. It's those little steps. Yeah, it's great when we have an epiphany moment. I've been very fortunate being here that a couple of the workshops, somebody said something, one line, literally. And I've gone, oh my God, think something's just fallen into place. That's great. But it's not going to be like that all the time. It is, back to the wheel and getting on with it and doing that continual process of connection, reconnection, blending, reblending, learning, growing, and just on that soul simple level.
And being authentic.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Authenticity
is very important. I find it very most important that teachers give you the surroundings and the environment, and with the set of exercises and with the proper education that comes with it, to explore in the exercise what your own authenticity is with the spirit world, with your own blending, and take those steps forward. Because if we have a fixed set of exercises, like do it this way or do it that way and then go off, then you lose yourself as a student. Okay, now I've done those exercises and now I'm going to go home and I don't know who I am because I've done the teacher's exercises and now I'm home again and it was a good experience. So building the safe surroundings for students to grow in their own possibilities, in their own authenticity, with the spirit world, with their own team, be aware of themselves in the blending. That I think that's where the enrichment comes. Yeah.
And to back up exactly what you just said, lovely Susan Brothwood Hughes. Hello, Susan. How are you? Do miss you in Paul. So sorry, hay fever, going mad. We do miss you, Susan, and the off license misses you even more. And it's whilst there are standard techniques which are good for the start of our journey, we must be permitted to allow our personality and soul to be present. We are all individual, and the world of spirit knows and recognises this. So therefore, our work and delivery ought to reflect our soul in all aspects. A good tutor shows the student the path without clicking their wings, with respectful spaces, of course. Yeah.
Therefore, there can never be a competition of being a tutor wherever you are in the world. There can't be a competition of students, because if we respect our soul and our soul path, you will always be guided by the spirit world in the way it should be if you follow it. So every teacher, every moment you sit with the spirit world, it will bring you something in the growth of your light.
Mm-hmm.
So stop comparing each other.
Yeah. Mark, any thoughts on that?
I want to go back to the comment that Stephen made, actually, because there was something that as you were talking about that and about these monumental changes, one of the pitfalls I think that we see in modern spiritualism is people wanting to be entertained and have the spiritual high. Going to demonstrations, going to seances, going to this, going to that, to keep this excitement and high of awesomeness. Mm-hmm. But of course, we forget that because mediumship can sometimes become so commonplace to us, because we see it throughout all of our lives, we miss that some of the smaller things are awesome as well. And you often see people trying to keep going on this. I've got to have something better. I've got to have the next spiritual high. And therefore that often leads to kind of jumping from one person to another, to a workshop, to another, to another, to another. If I'm again trying to seek the quick fix sometimes, rather than actually taking time to absorb, to assimilate, to think about the things that are there, and also realize how sometimes there's a picture that's building, like a thread weaving through, making a pattern, but we're so busy trying to achieve something that we're not seeing the pattern that's running through it. And I know that, I'm sure all of us here that have been working with courses and people like our lovely mediums online that run circles, or in churches or at home or wherever, you see people that come in, and one of the biggest things they're going to need to learn is patience. Yeah. And sometimes that's going to be the biggest stumbling block for a very long time, because they want to run at everything, and they want to do it quickly, and they want to push quickly, and it's it's a never-ending pathway. There's no end goal. If there's an end goal, then it means that we're not seeing the bigger picture. We're only seeing a tiny part of what we're doing. Mediumship and its unfoldment never ends. Never ends. The minute you think you've got there and it's finished, and you've got there and achieved it, you're moving backwards. Yeah. Because you've stopped, and the world is continuing to move. So this understanding of perpetual unfoldment, and not worrying about how long it's taking you, or how long it takes someone else, or how someone else does it, or why are they more popular than me, or why have they got more likes on their page? Doesn't matter. But people get hooked into it. They get hooked into comparison to other people, and we talked about this over the weekend, or over the week rather, sorry. And there are a lot of things that we need to learn from a personal development, a spiritual development, not just mediumship, but understanding how we function, the issues that we may have, the difficult sides of unfoldment, and working with other people, working within public setting. A lot of people kind of go, right, I'm going to go out there and be a platform medium, without thinking, what happens if I have an experience that isn't so pleasant. And then when that happens, if they've not had any thought or anything, sometimes that can completely derail them. And it depends on who they've been studying and working with, whether anyone's given them any idea that, you know, there are difficulties, there are issues. Sometimes we meet people that really don't want to see us succeed. And then when you're not ready for that, you're not prepared for that, you don't even know that exists, it can totally, in some instances, destroy some. And in others, it's the rocket fuel that takes them further, because they'll go, I'm going to survive in spite of you.
Yeah.
But it's not looked at. I know that Helen DeVita has done some videos on the difficulties of development and unfoldment. And I think that's a really good resource for people to look at and to think about, because, you know, we forget, we think it's all hearts and flowers. People are people, regardless of whether they're mediums or healers. They're still people with their own frailties, failings, quirks, problems, behaviors. And not everyone's ready for that. They only focus on, I'm going to learn how to be a medium, forgetting that we're talking about a whole movement of people and the psychology that goes with it.
Yeah, very true. Lovely Esmeralda, she comments, I believe it starts with a beginning and a kind of ego of what do I want? And then you get the understanding that there is no end, and you learn to get bigger picture, what involves creating a better connection with your spirit friends and the understanding bit by bit for the bigger picture. Very
Absolutely.
true.
Yeah.
Very good teacher, she must be.
No, and it's not only a commenting on Esmeralda, what she said. This is what we see also in the Netherlands. I want this. I want to be medium. I want to be teacher. I want to have these readings. I want to have my own center. I want to do readings. But you can have a plan on what you want, but is it also what the spirit world wants with you? And then it's not only get this connection with your spirit friend, it is to start to have the connection with your own soul. Start to unfold who you are. Because I believe by experience we have by these years, I'm doing this, and for a couple of years we're doing this together, we see that the better you know your own soul more, your mediumship will unfold by that. So you can have this, then I want to be a medium, I want to do message, I want to give evidence. But if you don't know who you are and how it works with you, how do you then understand what is pressed on your mind, what the spirit world is give? So start with the you in you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. Lovely Leslie Thomas. I hope you're better, Leslie, or feeling better. And she says, hello all. I think it depends what subject the workshop is about that draws people to attend. Also, depending on the cost. And personally, I think that whether or not you are developing or you're interested in or are a spiritualist, it's a place to be educated on many levels. You do need, though, a well-educated teacher with experience. Yeah, very true, very true. Interesting points about the what subject that is, because we are seeing there's a plethora of workshops, and like Mark and like Danielle and like Diane and like many of you out there, we're sort of old school spiritualists and proud of that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't feel like a dinosaur. I feel very privileged and very happy.
Yeah, a dinosaur?
A dinosaur.
I feel like a fly.
You feel like a fly. What do you feel like?
An
In one word.
attendant. An attendant.
Anyway.
Let's go.
No, I think that's so important that we don't forget that if we look into the past and those wonderful pioneers that brought spiritualism in the world as how it is now, that we can think about the subject, because this subject is drawing you. And I heard Mark saying we all have this particular niche we like.
Yeah.
And I also think back of a comment, I can't remember who said that to me years ago on the Art of Findlay College. If you are able to bring forward a loved one with evidence and with love and within this healing vibration, or you're able to set your intent, attune to the healing masters, and this healing flow will come, you are absolutely have all the possibilities to have all the facets of spiritualism. So I feel we did this week with Under the Same Sky, people could choose the different subjects to participate in onto psychicism. How do you? Psychism. I call it intuition.
No, we can call it intuition.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe that's
wrong, but you can call it that.
It's wrong.
No, it's not. That's right.
It will start from somewhere. So what we see in the Netherlands, it's similar, and go to a workshop that's of interest, and it's just little bit, and then go on. Oh, and that stays within you, but there is no depth. And if we're looking back into our past pioneers and how Gordon Hickerson teached on the college, and you didn't had all these exercises, because a lot of people want to do a workshop or a week, and I'm paying £800 and I want to have exercise because I'm paying for it. But what about the knowledge? Gordon Hickerson, if you had the privilege to sit with him, you sit for hours listening to lectures, get this richness of the inspiration the spirit world has given to him. What an honor to be in that space, to listen to this wisdom. So I'm also an old-fashioned medium, and I think, okay, yeah, do a workshop, tip your tone into the water, but let the ripple in the water start to unfold the whole. And that will take some time. 6, 10, 15, 20 years. And we're never there.
Very good. Yeah, and that's a really good point.
Sorry, there was a lot of inspiration coming out of my mouth.
That and other stuff as well. No, it was very good. It was a really good point. It was a really valid point. Shut up. It's been like this all week. Honestly, people, I'm going to need a week off after this week.
We're going home tomorrow. and
the rally was a breeze compared to this week.
Oh!
And I said to Lawrence, do you know, we're leaving tomorrow, but we see each other in 3 months again in the Netherlands.
We're back out in the Netherlands.
We're ready for it.
Yay. So, lovely Reverend Ashley, lovely. The treasures are within, and we're all caught up looking for someone with a map. Yeah, really good. And wonderful Susan, she agrees with you, Mark. It was a bit pointed. Cut me out of it now. She's not talking to me now.
She commented when I was in the middle of saying something. That's where that came from.
I know. Marion Frisbee. Hello, darling. We are all on the journey of life. Life teaches us what we have to learn, and we are not that which we are not. We are not that which we are not.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Stealing that one, Marion.
Like a tail?
Yeah.
In your toilet?
No.
But she said something that's
Can we get back to the program, please?
Yeah.
By looking within, it is a lifelong journey of refinement, attunement with spirit and our spirit. Nice. Becoming who we are always meant to become. All spiritual activity enhances our development and philosophy of life. Beautiful, Marion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very important there.
What?
No, I think, I don't think, I know that what mostly is forgotten, that your mediumship comes from the wisdom, not only blending with the spirit world, but also experiencing life here. That's where the wisdom comes from as well. And your spirituality in that is how you approach that experiencing in life. And together with the wisdom of spirit, your mediumship enhances every time and every time. And that's an unfolding adventure almost. Because if you just experiencing life, and that's what you started, it is hard sometimes. What's going on now is very restless. Everything is expensive, everything is busy. But if you going to approach that on a different level from the spirit perspective within yourself and experiencing life, and that will enhance your wisdom in your mediumship together with the wisdom within the blending with your team. I think that's mostly forgot. If you do only the faculty of mediumship, you have to do it that way, that way, that way, that way. Then you sit with spirit like it's something normal, because I think you sit with your nature, in the creation. And if you just live life, what's sometimes so forgotten, just to feel life and not only see life, that could be very enriching for your soul and for your spirit, and with your connection with spirit world, for your mediumship in any kind of facet of mediumship you do. And that's why I love this week so much, because the students had every facet of mediumship in this week they could touch at a low cost, with very good teachers, I might say. So it was a good opportunity to.
How much money have you got? You've got to keep paying.
I sent the bill later. That was a very good comment. Thank you so very much. I don't have my glasses on. Marianne, thank you so very much, Marianne. Yeah.
So this, actually, I love this. There's wonderful Ashley who attends Paul Church. And he's asking, what different methods are available to us when we are at the start of our journey into mediumship to build self-belief and further strengthen our connections with the spirit and expand that connection to further your own awareness? So that's somebody, actually, wonderful gentleman, but don't tell him I said that because we'll get together. But he's a wonderful gentleman, and he's right at the beginning of that journey. So I love those. I love new people who bring in thoughts that we've forgotten.
And I think this question that he is questioning himself, this is a good thing, because that's the first start. Yeah. You feel that you are on the beginning of a journey. So start with an awareness, understand self, understand your senses, how your class are working with you, and have this experience in a safe environment. Because when we are starting to unfold this kind of things in all the faculties, you become more sensitive in a way. So you need to learn that you have stability. Yeah. And this stability in who you are is helping you also into life, and it's helping you to making in a trustful way to step forward, and then slowly and gently this connection to the spirit world will grow. So it's a step-by-step process. Never run.
Brilliant. What would your advice be, Mark?
I was going to say, very similar to where Danielle is saying, sitting but also observing. Going to church, watching mediums work, going to church, experience healing, go to church, get books from the library, read, explore, because the journey that you're traveling, many hundreds, if not thousands, if not more, have traveled. not just in spiritualism as well, in other beliefs. And we talked about that over the weekend, that, you know, the mediumship isn't solely the domain of spiritualism. There are expressions of the spirit world throughout all different religions. So to explore and to expand knowledge as well as sitting to experience, and reading and looking and asking questions from people that you trust. And also, you know, you might ask people from anyone, you know, whether you trust them or not, or know them or not, because it's that one thing, you know, questions and asking and exploring, you know, is fascinating, because you see perspectives and think, oh, as you've said, Lawrence, there are things people say and you suddenly go, oh my God, yes, that makes total sense to me. And it can just be the way someone puts something. This is why when Danielle talked about the lectures and things, when we used to sit with Glyn, I could sit and listen to Glyn all day in, day out, and not worry about doing any exercises, because you were learning through the understanding and also challenging you to think beyond just how to do something. And that, you know, if you can go and buy 1 million books or go on 1 million courses that just give you step by step, this is how you do something. But I'll give an example. We've used the car a lot this week. Now, I'm one of those drivers who learned how to drive a car, but if I lifted a bonnet, I could probably tell you, swine, I could probably only tell you, I notice you don't drive this. So tell you, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, he's been a naughty boy. If my car broke down tomorrow, I would have to have someone else fix it, because I don't have a thorough knowledge of a car to learn how to I know how to drive, don't necessarily know every bit about a car and how it works. In mediumship, if we only learn how to give a message but don't understand the mechanics behind it, understand the power behind it, understand the connection behind it, all we know is we can either give a message or not. And it doesn't mean I'm going on a mechanics course next week, because no. I'll let professionals deal with that. But that's what, if we look at an analogy, you know, we don't want to just know how to do. We should be understanding why, how, and how it's come about, how it functions, and also how to expand and potentially unfold it even more, not just stay within the limits of this is it.
Yeah. And also, just, you know, I like things very simple because I can understand them. I always teach, you know, please stop picking on me. This has been 7 days now. I'm just about there. See,
it's not my fault. It's not hay fever, it's us.
I always stress with people, you know, when they're working with the mediumship, evidential, philosophical healing or whatever, the divinity within their work.
Yeah.
And that is so often overlooked.
Yeah.
You know, I do get a little bit grey when I keep seeing, oh, thank you everybody who came out last night to support my mediumship. Yeah, I don't go to a church to support your mediumship. I go to a church to see the glory, the majesty, the miracle of communication.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah. Anyway, move off because I'll go. Rah, rah, rah. Lovely Ashley Oliver. You can absolutely tell those demonstrators have done the hard yards in their self-development. It comes across in the depth of experience and the presence. It's hard to describe, but tangible, and that is so true, isn't it? Because we were talking, weren't we? Some stage this week we had this conversation about you will get some people that can walk in the room. Oh, it's in the psychic course, and hold a presence.
Yes.
They walk in and just their presence commands your attention. There's something there. There's something you go, oh, I need to sit up and listen to this. Oh, what's going on? Why is this talking to me? And that's so true. Lovely Leslie Thomas. She's joining the club. She's an old school dinosaur as well. Good old Leslie. Lorna Harper. Hello, darling. How nice to see you. It's sad that we don't have many mediums like Gordon anymore. Why? Not why is it sad, why do we not have the mediums like Gordon anymore? Anybody?
Do we not? Or is it only that we often hold, like, for instance, you know, I was very close to Glyn for many, many years. Is it sometimes that we hold certain people in such high esteem that that's where our focus often is? And I'm not saying anything about the quality of Gordon's mediumship, but the way that he was seen as very much a beacon. I have seen, and we have all seen, mediums who sometimes absolutely shine and excel in their mediumship, but maybe they are someone who is not standing up in the way that Gordon did and devoted his life in the way that he did for spiritualism, the union, for the college. But that person is still remarkable, not only in their mediumistic ability, but maybe in their teaching. But again, a lot of the great mediums didn't always even leave their living rooms. And I think that if we look at, and this is where, you know, keeping the memory of certain mediums alive and how they work, but also aspiring to, not comparing to, but aspiring to. You know, when Glyn passed, I really felt like I was never going to find another teacher that would inspire me like he did, because I only had him really, you know, for a very long time to focus on and with, because I found someone who I resonated with. And it wasn't until after his passing, and a couple of years after his passing, and I felt like a ship without a rudder, I listened to, I went to an online talk during COVID with one of the people, with Simon James and Brian Robertson, called Toxic Teaching. And if any of you went on that or were on that, you'll know what a wonderful couple of hours that discussion was. But I came away inspired by something that resonated with me. And again, you, as Ashley said about, you see the people that have put in the years of hard work and their knowledge. But again, we also have to remember that we will find the right mediums that will help us to excel. And you know, again, that's different, you know. But I think dedication is one of the biggest issues sometimes. It's too far, you know. In the old days, you know, you kept being told by circle leaders or wonderful strong ladies in the church, get back to circle, you shouldn't be up here yet, you're not ready. Now today that would upset people beyond belief.
Yes, it does.
You know, it does. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does, Lawrence. But you
really
know, this is again about the fast track. And you know, and so I think, you know, we may have wonderful mediums and teachers out there, but maybe they are more surreptitious, working in the background, doing their thing, inspiring people. But I think as a figurehead, Gordon just captured a whole generation and beyond, definitely. But whether do we need, I don't mean the quality of the mediumship, but the figureheads. Do we need the figureheads like that? Maybe we do, to push mediumship beyond the churches.
Yeah.
Because we've had this discussion that, you know, a lot of people are saying we can't get people won't come in. But have we waited too long before trying to get out there? Have we become complacent and not got out there? And maybe we need to. I know that today there's a whole group of people from the union at London Pride with a whole stand about spiritualism there, which is wonderful, reaching out to people. There are more people interested in the spirit world than there ever were, and life after death. So it's not for the lack of people that want to know, but do they know where to come?
Very true. And going back to that great comment, so thank you for that, Lorna. You know, the pioneers were exactly that. They were the first. We will always remember who was the first man on the moon. Who was the first person to do it? We will always remember the first. The second and thirds, maybe get marred in history, but we always remember the first. So it's sort of like two levels there. I mean, watching and reading, watching Gordon on YouTube, reading his books, which are getting incredibly hard to find and incredibly expensive. I don't know what's going on there, but it's a bit dodgy.
We have a Dutch version for you.
Oh, that's handy. Great.
know,
But hang on. Hooray! Photos. Hang on. So we will always remember the first. I get that. I totally get that. The pioneers, they are the ones that opened the doors to allow us to be what we are today. Forever grateful. But are we comparing the standard of their mediumship to what we're seeing today? And if so, I'm really sorry. There are a lot of teachers on screen and in this room today. Are we going out with that energy of we're not going to see another Gordon Higginson? So therefore, that's what we're telling ourselves.
Mind needs experience.
Exactly. So maybe it rests on, us, wherever we are in teaching, mentoring, educating, coaching, however we term it. Maybe need to look at when we say things, we're not any more mediums like Gordon anymore. So, deconstruct that. Why? What is that statement saying? Because it's going to speak volumes to different people. And I'm not having a go at by any means, Lorna. I find it fascinating. The pioneers were the first. They did everything the first time. And that was the wow, because that caught the attention. That engaged, that caused that reaction and that input from external influences. So that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin, are we saying that the mediums today are not as good as mediums as ones of yesteryear? Well, if not, why not? Are we not? Are we? I see people teach and practice and shying away from a name. And afterwards saying, well, I had a name, but I didn't want to say it just in case it was wrong, because that's it, the world will end. So that's something for everyone to take away. But thank you, Lorna, because that is very, very good.
But there's trust, isn't there? You've just spoken about trust, to trust the process. And again, we're one of the biggest things, if you look at stories about Gordon's life and his upbringing with his mum sitting him in circle from the tender age of 3. Fanny Higginson was, if we can, in the most politest way, think of her as the stage mom of spiritualism, going, this child is going to be an amazing medium. How many people do we see comes into a spiritualist family and is trained from an early age in the way she trained him and made him work? And Glyn used to tell us stories about how Fanny used to work with the Gordon's development. And, I think that was really something else, which I don't know whether a lot of people, she would make him demonstrate in an empty church with names and addresses. And then she would go and knock on those doors in the town and say, my son's a medium, but here's the message he's got. Where that's a whole other level of dedication, trust, and trust in the other world and the ability, and again,
that's what you're doing tomorrow.
I'm flying home.
But how much do we trust and get self-doubt out of the way, rather than going, oh, I'm not sure, if I say that, what if it's wrong? If you don't dare to express, then you won't know how right it could be for that person. And surrendering to the other world maybe knows more than we do. So maybe let them do their job as we work with them. Let it be what it can be. Don't limit. Don't say, oh, I don't. We had this over the weekend. Stop saying I don't, and it only works this way. Oh, I don't get names. Well, every time you say it, you never will. But if you say, well, if you, to the spirit world, if you want to give me names, that'd be lovely. If you want to give me an address, that would be lovely. If you want to tell me, whatever it is you want to tell me for the love, that's great. Rather than shutting the conversation down to only what you feel capable of.
Yeah. Wonderful. Bridie. Good evening, Bridie. You're having a night off, my darling. It's a very busy lady. And she's saying, I feel that because we use the term teacher in advertising courses, it misleads people into thinking that they can be taught how to link with spirit and replicate what they see in their teacher, where I feel the term mentoring is more applicable because it helps us to own it and grow into it with the guidance and support of a mentor. What is your views on this? I love it.
Can I jump in on that? Mentor and workshop aren't necessarily going to be the same thing, because you can go to a workshop and it's a one-off. When we look at mentoring, because I work with a charity where we mentor, and it's years of working with an individual to unfold them and help them unfold, to support them in their unfoldment. So mentor, you see a lot of mentorships now, and you're signing up to work with someone for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I mean, for me, Glyn was a mentor for me. I knew Glyn 17 years, and he was mentor, friend, colleague. We worked together, we talked together. I think it's difficult, the terminology, because if you're not a mentor, if you say facilitator, that sounds odd, and people don't understand facilitator sometimes. It's like, what's a facilitator? Teacher's the closest thing that maybe we can understand, but it's difficult how we term it. I mean, we could say come to a workshop working with medium, healer, whoever, and take away the idea. But I think it's in the understanding of people. And again, this maybe is where we need to educate people more, like educating congregations about divine services, about trance demos, especially from our week that we've had this week, educating people into what a workshop's about, what a circle's about, from the point of view that it's not hard and fast. Every time I teach and work with people, I say, these are my views and opinions. This is the experiences I've had. These are the things that have worked for me. However, you've got to explore whether they work for you. Not follow this plan and it will always work. This is how it works for me. Or these are the things I've experienced in this way. These are things that I haven't. And then you discuss and you have that conversation with the student. But again, it's difficult because if you put mentor, it has another implication again of longer term support. And a workshop, most people go to a one-day workshop, work with one medium, the next week they're working with another. An old school friend of mine who used to run circles at a church for many, many years, he always used to say, you can't serve more than one master. And he used it from the point of view that if you sat in 2 or 3 circles at the same time, it would confuse you completely because you were being shown 2 or 3 different ways of doing the same thing. And sometimes I think, and again, different people are working with loads of different mediums. You sometimes get because one person will say, you go into trance this way. Another person will say, you go into trance that way, but you feel you go into trance that way. So it's realizing that everyone has their own experience, can show you and help you to explore, or they might just be showing you do it my way. And there are teachers out there that say, if you do it this way, you'll always give a perfect message. Strong words.
I wished it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Bridie. Thank you. Susan, I'm happy to be an old school diner. I'm just going to start a club. The dinosaurs. So thank you. Good evening there to Chris. So nice to see you, sir. Lovely Margaret Challenger. And she says, there are some really dedicated mediums about. I witnessed Gordon working and feel that we have moved forward as a result of his teachings in a positive way, a way in which he would be very proud and pleased. How wonderful. Thank you, Margaret.
Good.
We're back to Laura Harper. Hi all. I find that there may be some people out there, but there is not as many that I would pay to see anymore. There may be others out there, as you say, dedication is what holds many back. So that's picking up on the earlier conversation there.
And another thing that sometimes holds people back who may be incredibly good mediums is the movement and how it treats them,
Mm.
and how other mediums treat them.
Yeah.
Because mediumship is not for the faint-hearted. One of the comments that I always make is that as a medium, you have the sensitivity of a butterfly's wing, but you need the skin of a rhino.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I can tell you, I have met some mediums who I have considered exceptional, and things have happened to them by the hands of other people, and they have walked away and never come back to spiritualism, demonstrating and working. And it's sad that that's happened. I've been privileged to see them work and, work with them and be friends with them. But it shows that, it's a tough pathway at times. And, you can be great, but you have to be tough as well.
Yeah.
Tenacity. I like that word.
It's not work sitting on a pink cloud.
Mm. Very true. Reverend Ashley, that was the secret sauce, I think, that makes us share stories of the pioneers and so many mediums that we think of fondly. It was a devotion to service. It was a depth of understanding and also holding this connection as sacred work. But we do need to leave room for today's pioneers, speaking to the times that we are in now. Very true, very true. And I think sometimes we can be a little bit too quick to compare people to the pioneer. How would you, if you took a job on, you walked in your first day and they go, well, you make the coffee over there, but you're not going to be as good as Sheila or you're replacing. You're just going to think, well, bugger the coffee then. Chris Jacobs, there are still some dedicated mediums about, they don't shout about it.
Yeah.
That is really true. I have seen some people who, they haven't got all the bells and whistles and stuff like that. And when they've actually demonstrated, I've just sat there and gone, wow, I like that. I like that. I love that in a dem. I think that's amazing. So, yeah, very true. Stephen Mega. Gordon was famous for depth of information involving many addresses and telephone numbers. Today you would have safeguarding issues. The environment has changed. Maybe spirit communication was more potent before and it's diluted as it has spread to be accessible by more people. Interesting thought.
What is safeguarding?
That I can't say on here. This is Danielle Nijhuis and her address.
Nijhuis.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's it.
This is Diane Kampshoff. Her address is.
AFG. Yeah, okay, thank you.
I'll shut up then.
For everyone here, GDPR that we hear about so much.
And that's even.
Yeah. Is just. Oh God, I've forgotten what the question was. Now.
Sorry.
Rachel Kenyon, why isn't spiritualism and mediumship advertised more? That's an interest. Could you expand on that, please, Rachel? Because we're all sat here thinking, if I do any more adverts, Facebook is going to change its name to the Lawrence Saville page, or the Mark Stone page, or the Danielle Nijhuis page.
Perfect.
I think if we think about maybe Rachel come back in a second, hopefully, with thing, but we don't necessarily see that much in the way of positive representation in the media, in public.
Yeah.
We don't, if you think about going back in the day with like Colin Fry and Sixth Sense when that was on television. I know Daniela in Holland, you've had your show for 10 years. Did you have it?
No, it wasn't my show, but I was part of the show and it was the face for 10 years.
I was bigging you up then. It was your show. You were on it.
Yeah.
But we don't have necessarily, sometimes we don't see, we do have mediums that go out there and work in theatres and it's promoted and people see. churches are very much on an individual basis, aren't they? Some churches, Lawrence is on every single group all over the world and sharing. It's generally not commonly known about. We don't have as much representation in the media as, say, Songs of Praise gets, for sure. I don't think we've ever had a spiritualist Songs of Praise. Maybe we ought to push.
I think we should go into the reality side of it, a bit like, whatever it is on the beach. We have a reality game show with all mediums in there. Maybe not. No, that's not going down at all well. So we'll forget that.
If the cameras in the church had been on this week, I think people would have just been thoroughly shocked, Lawrence. So I think reality TV is left alone.
I was, Mark. I was left bruised and confused. Anyway, moving on. Lovely Susan Hughes. One of my favourite quotes by Oscar Wilde is, "Just be yourself because everyone else is taken."
Yeah.
We take the knowledge of the old and bring it to the new. Before Gordon's passing, he is known to have had grave misgivings about the standard of mediumship way back then. This is the thing, isn't it? A lot of things we say in today is things that have always been said within the movement.
Yeah, absolutely. Cycles.
Yeah. We've got to get the youngsters in. God, I was brought up with that. I'm no spring chicken now. But yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? That a lot of these just keep coming back, keep coming back.
All of life is like a cycle.
Yeah. Chris Jacobs here. Some are just not dedicated enough to be mentored for more than a couple of months. They then feel that they or big league. Yeah. They do a little bit of that. Yeah, definitely. Oh, there we go. Rachel. Generally, it's not commonly known about or what it's actually about. It isn't understood, but yes, what Mark's saying is right. Nick Brown, Reverend Nick Brown. The rules of Ofcom are still the biggest barrier to representation in the media. Interesting. Could you expand on that? I like this. Spiritualism Island.
Spiritualism Island.
Yeah, I'm not going on an island and tripping off. No.
Oh, it's got to be abroad. It's got to be somewhere hot. I don't want to end up on Brownsea Island or in the middle of Pool Park Lake. I want Antigua or something like that.
Antigua. How long is that flying?
I have no idea, but I'm willing to find out. So Chris Jacobs asking you, Mark, directly, do you remember how charismatic Glyn was? Yeah. How he held his audience? That seems scarce. That seems to scare people now. Why?
I think a lot of people, one of the things that, and again, we go back to this idea of, you said it about the courses, Daniela, people wanting workshops, and not wanting to talk. I can remember Glyn was on a week at the college, and one of my students was on it, and she emailed me and said, "I'm thinking of leaving early during the week." And I went, "Oh my God, what's the matter?" And she said, students on Glyn's week have put in a complaint that he's doing sitting in the power for an hour every morning. And I said, "Well, that's great. That's what we normally do." And they said, "No, they want another hour of workshops." So I thought, so I rang Glyn, left a message and said, "If you need to chat." And he said, "Yes, I had the college not the head of the college, but the manager of the college come and deliver the complaint." And I said, "And what did you do?" And he said, "And I carried on doing sitting in the power for an hour every morning." Because if he hadn't, it'd have been the tail wagging the dog. He knows what he's doing. And again, horses for courses. For me, the ability when we'd have Glyn down to teach and have a week with him, and I just loved it when he just started to talk about the people he'd known, the things he'd experienced, the knowledge that he had. Again, Glyn had a hugely extensive knowledge. You know this, Chris, and there's many of you in the room that I know that knew Glyn as well. He had an extensive knowledge of other religions, other understandings, phenomena, psychology and things, and all sorts of manner of different stuff. And so listening to him was mind expanding. And, and maybe that isn't right for every student, because some people would think, you know, and I've been accused of the same. Oh, you just waffle on about stuff, and then you think, are you listening to what's being said though?
Mhm.
You know, because just like when we have the trance demonstrations, the spirit world answer your question before you've asked. Teaching, as we all know here, is an inspired state. And often you talk about something and someone comes up and says, I was just thinking, how does this happen? And then you talked about it. So Glyn had this, well, I adored Glyn and the way that he worked, you know, for all different reasons, and also accepting different faults and things that was there as well. But he was a brilliant orator, a brilliant speaker, and he demonstrated so well. And you know, and he was funny when he relaxed as well. He would be so funny, and irreverent and down to earth, and you know, wonderful, really wonderful. So, but some people, maybe they feel they're not charismatic. You know, you don't have to be another Glyn Edwards, you don't have to be another Gordon Higgins. You know, Sue's comment, you know, just be you. Everyone else is taken. Don't be a poor imitation of someone else. Be good as you.
Yeah. Ashley Oliver, lovely comment. Great. We had silent meals and silent time during the seminary training. Reason, we have enough time for talking. We needed more time listening and contemplating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things Glyn used to say, and it's in one of his books, is to take a day in silence.
Yeah.
No phones, no music even. Silence. Be alone with your thoughts. Be alone with the thoughts of the other world. And because one of his biggest experiences was entering a monastery, which was predominantly a silent order. And it was out of that the experiences these had as a child then became much more intense and focused. So, you know, we tend to be from noise, sound, podcasts, phones, all manner of things. We don't spend a lot of time in silence. We're not alone with our thoughts and alone with the other world that often.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Anyway, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Did you have something to say? You went. I felt like you were going to go.
Yeah.
And
We have in the Netherlands, as many other mediums or places or centers or churches have newsletters. And what we have is one part is about mediums of today. Because if we are thinking of education and we're thinking of working with the spirit world and being at service, those who are listening now today or those who were with us this week, you are the mediums of today and tomorrow. So I think it's so important that this blending with the spirit world, and I had this experience too in the past. My first teaching was with Glyn Edwards, and I was this girl thinking of education. I want to have an exercise. And I came with Glyn and I thought, oh, I need to sit with my eyes closed. And I think this is still the thoughts of people. But if you surrender and you want to surrender of this great knowledge, the spirit world, what can bring us, that sounds really a strange sentence in English, but I hope you all understand this. This richness and this holiness in life or in mediumship or whatever pathway you're coming is a marvelous journey.
Yeah. Lovely comment here from Reverend Nick Brown. And most of all kind with it, talking about Glyn Edwards. And most of all kind with it too. Glyn once said to me, "Who are you? Never mind, I don't care. Hello," and hugged me.
Yeah. He always asked after every student. He remembered every student that had come on a course. Whenever we'd talk, he'd say, "How's so-and-so doing? How are they doing with their mediumship? What are they doing now?" Always had a great interest beyond the courses, beyond the workshops. And again, when I've forgotten names tonight, asked about mentor. You know, some people are mentors by the virtue of that they actually care long term about their students and will always say, if you need anything, phone me. If you need to talk to me, phone me. If you've got a concern, phone me. And that's the relationship I had with Glint and vice versa. And he had that with other people who, you know, if I say, and I'm not saying this good teachers do and don't, but when you find teachers that say, if you're worried about something, if there's a problem, you just contact me, rather than, oh, next workshop. You know, you have a relationship, a friendship, a connection, and you know that you are supported, even if you're not going on the workshop. You've got a long-term someone who cares. Important.
Right. And I think sums up tonight absolutely beautifully. Helena Breen, thank you. Education is vital.
Absolutely.
It is. Absolutely. Thank you for that comment. Had a good evening.
I had a really good evening.
I
Have a
had
good
a
evening.
very good week.
Yeah,
very good week. And it's still not
Fabulously.
over.
No.
Still not over.
Because you are here
Yeah.
live tomorrow, taking the divine service.
Yes.
Exciting, isn't it?
Exciting.
Exciting. Mark, sir, how are you?
Fabulous. Thank you.
Bye.
Good. Well, on behalf of everybody here, thank you for joining us, whether you're live tonight or sometime in the future, watching on whichever device. Welcome, 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 and hello. And just remember, you can see the wonderful Danielle working tomorrow, live from Poole. She'll be taking our divine service at 11 a.m. BST, so we look forward to that. In the meantime, have a wonderful night, everybody. Good night, everyone. Mwah.
Goodbye.
all.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.